first time I noticed something was wrong, it was small enough to ignore. I woke up in the middle of the night and the lamp beside my bed was on the wrong side. I remember clearly placing it on the right when I moved in last month, but there it was, on the left, glowing faintly like it had always belonged there. I told myself I must have misremembered. People do that, right? The brain fills in gaps. Still, when I got up and reached for my phone, it wasn't on the nightstand. It was on the dresser across the room. I never leave it there. That was the first night. And it didn't stop there. Every morning, I'd get up, make coffee, and tell myself to stop thinking about it. Maybe I was overtired from work. Maybe I'd moved things around in my sleep. But every night, when I woke up, the room was slightly different again. At first, it was the furniture. A chair facing the wrong wall. The curtain tied in a knot I didn't remember making. Then, the air itself began to feel wrong. The light from the window shifted in hue. Too pale, too blue. It was like waking up in a perfect imitation of my room, built by someone who didn't quite understand what normal looked like. I started taking photos before I went to bed. Same angle, same lighting. Each morning, I'd compare them, and every single time, something was off. The chair was half an inch closer to the window. A crack in the wall was missing. A book on my desk had a different title. Small things. The kind of details no one sane should obsess over. But once you start noticing, you can't stop. By the third week, it became a routine. Wake up, check the room, document the difference. Try to convince myself I'm not losing my mind. I even started marking the floor with tape, labeling where everything belonged. I'd place a piece of masking tape under each leg of my desk, one beneath my lamp, one at the base of my chair. Every morning, at least one piece of tape was wrong, shifted, torn, moved slightly aside. At one point, I thought maybe the apartment complex was vibrating. Trucks passing by at night, small tremors, who knows? But the movements weren't random. They were deliberate. Objects weren't just moving. They were rearranging in a pattern, like someone was trying to align the room according to a geometry I couldn't understand. I decided to test it. That night, before going to sleep, I placed a marble at the edge of my desk. If the room was shifting, the marble should roll or fall. In the morning, I'd find it somewhere else, maybe on the floor. But when I woke up, the marble was still on the desk, except it was in a completely different position. It hadn't rolled, it had teleported. Moved several inches across the surface in a perfectly straight line, as if lifted and replaced. No trail, no dust disturbance, just a different. I checked the photos again. My desk had moved closer to the wall, not by much, maybe half an inch, but it was consistent with the pattern I'd seen before. Something was shifting this room every night. Not randomly, intentionally. 2 nights later, I noticed the window. I live on the second floor, facing a parking lot with a flickering streetlight. I've seen that view 100 times. But when I woke up that night, the view was wrong. The lot looked the same, but the light didn't flicker. It glowed steadily, humming faintly. And the cars parked outside. They weren't the same ones. A red sedan I'd never seen before. A van with no license plate. I rubbed my eyes, thinking maybe I was dreaming. But when I opened them again, the streetlight was out completely. The next morning, it was flickering again, exactly like before. That's when I realized it wasn't my window anymore. I told my friend Lucas about it. He laughed at first, then frowned when he saw how serious I was. "Man, you're just stressed. Work's killing you. Maybe get out of the apartment for a bit," he said. I didn't tell him that I'd tried that. I'd stayed overnight at a hotel across town one weekend, and the next morning I woke up to the same thing. Room slightly different. Different curtains, different smell in the air. Even my toothbrush had a different brand name printed on it. I called my doctor. She suggested a sleep study, maybe mild dissociation. But I knew what I was seeing. This wasn't in my head. One night, I decided not to sleep at all. I stayed awake, camera ready, light dimmed. I sat in bed watching, waiting. Around 3:14 a.m., I blinked. Just once. That's all it took. In that instant, the air shimmered, like heat distortion. The walls flexed slightly. The corners of the room breathed in and out. And the world clicked. When I blinked again, everything had changed. The room was still there, but slightly wrong. The posters on the wall were in a different order. The closet door was on the opposite side. I didn't move. I didn't sleep. And yet, the room had changed around me. I felt the floor hum faintly beneath my feet, as if something enormous had shifted below the building. That was the first night I heard the sound. A soft scraping, like someone dragging a hand along the other side of the wall. A week later, I decided to take photos continuously, overnight. I set up a tripod and filmed while I slept. When I reviewed the footage the next morning, I almost dropped my phone. At exactly 3:14 a.m., the video glitched. For one frame, a single second, there was someone else in the room. It was me, lying in the bed, while I, the one holding the camera, was also there, standing beside it, watching myself sleep. The duplicate moved slightly, like breathing. Then the image flickered again, and everything returned to normal. But I wasn't dreaming. The timestamp was real. The footage was real. There were two of me. I started piecing it together. Each night wasn't just a shift. It was a transition. I wasn't waking up in the same place at all. I was slipping between nearly identical versions of my apartment, alternate layers of the same world. And each version had its own me. The more nights passed, the more I could feel it. The slight wrongness, like gravity pulling in different directions. Sometimes the air smelled faintly of ozone. Sometimes the hallway outside my door was shorter. Sometimes the doorknob was colder than metal should ever be. And each night, the differences grew. I realized the entity, or whatever force was doing this, wasn't random. It was replacing me slowly, piece by piece. Each night, a new me would wake up in a slightly different room. A near-perfect copy of the last. But where did the old one go? Last night, I stayed awake again. I wanted to catch it, to see the change happen in real time. I placed mirrors along the wall so I could see every angle of the room. I kept every light off except a single lamp. At 3:14 a.m., it happened again. The air shimmered, the floor vibrated, and my reflection didn't move with me. It stood perfectly still while I turned my head. Then it smiled. That's when the shadows began to move. Not across the floor, but out of the reflection itself. The other me in the mirror stepped forward, pressing a hand against the glass from the inside. The surface rippled, like liquid. I backed away, but the reflection didn't. It leaned closer until its face filled the mirror. Same eyes, same voice, but colder, empty. Then I heard it whisper, "You're in my room now." The lights flickered. The hum grew louder. When it stopped, everything was silent. I was alone again. Except the reflection wasn't gone. It had turned its back to me. I don't know how many nights it's been since then. I stopped keeping count. Each time I wake up, the room looks normal enough to fool me for a moment. But then I see the tiny differences. A new scratch on the floor, a picture frame tilted at a new angle, a color I don't remember painting the walls. I've stopped calling friends. I've stopped leaving messages, because each time I try, they act strange. Polite but distant, like they're not quite the people I knew. Maybe they aren't. Maybe I've crossed too many layers to find my way back. Last night, I stood in front of the mirror again. The reflection looked tired, but it wasn't doing what I was doing. It blinked out of sync. I whispered, "Which one of us is real?" It smiled again. And this time, when I turned away, it didn't. I could still see its face moving, in the reflection, staring at me with that hollow, knowing look. Now, every night when I fall asleep, I wonder if I'll wake up in a room that's still mine, or in his, because I'm starting to think, Maybe I wasn't the original to begin with. Maybe the first me never made it out of that room at all. And if that's true, then I've been the copy all along.